Wanna play?
Here's Johnny!
I need a bigger boat.
What's your favorite scary movie?
We have such sights to show you.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wanna Play. My name is James McKenna, and today we're going to be bringing back an old series that I did a few episodes on a few months back, and that is the Comparing and Contrasting series, where I take an original movie and its remake and fairly assess 7 points of interest to compare and contrast the two until we ultimately decide which movie is better. And today's movies that we're going to be comparing and contrasting is The Invisible Man, the OG classic from 1933, and the brand new remake from 2020. Usually, people always prefer the original, stuff like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or Halloween. Everybody always says that the original is better. With The Invisible Man, it's pretty different. So today, we're going to take a look at 7 points of interest, as I said, and try and fairly assess and see which one of the two movies is overall the better movie. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So our first point of interest is the scariness of the film, and I think personally the scariness is definitely the remake. The original doesn't really go for scariness all that much. Like, there's a lot of pretty funny moments in the movie, actually, especially when you get bits like him throwing a cop out of his pants, or him running around in just pants, singing "Here We Go Gathering Nuts in May," chasing an old grandma down the street. Whereas the remake focuses heavily on the creepiness. Just the opening scene is one of the creepiest scenes ever, and so many of the jump scares land so well in the film that I think that the remake definitely takes the scariness point of interest. The atmosphere, I think, once again goes to the remake. Once again, the original didn't really go for atmosphere that much. It was more of like a horror comedy, the original, whereas the remake just enthralls in atmosphere and is just so well in what it does with it. Once again, I gotta mention the opening scene when it comes to this. Just the opening scene and the atmosphere that we get in that, just in the middle of the night in this isolated, huge house, but it's so isolated and it's just like run through like the woods and get into the car and drive away. Just the opening scene alone has more atmosphere than the original movie, so the atmosphere's gotta go to the remake.
See? It's okay. You saw it on the television.
Once again, I think the characters goes to the remake. The characters in the original were more funny, where you had guys like Jaffers and his crazy weird accent.
What's all this?
But some of the characters in the original I feel like were a little bit pointless and a little bit wasted, but some of them were also really good, whereas the remake, pretty much every character is awesome. Now, there were a few characters that were iffy in the remake, but just Adrian Griffin and Cecilia are just on another level. Like, their acting and characters are so well written and so well casted. They're just amazing characters. And although Jack Griffin is one of my favorite horror characters of all time, personally, like even top 10 maybe, he's the Invisible Man from the original, I think that overall, all the characters together beat out really just him and Jaffers to make the remake run away with this point. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a clean sweep of the remake, because the kills are going to the original. Now, there are a lot of cool kills in the remake, but it's nothing that we've never really seen before. Like, there's a cool neck slit in there somewhere, but I don't know, we've seen neck slits before multiple times in the past, and even neck slits done by invisible guys, like in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, once again. But the kills in the original, now keep in mind this is 1933. The only big horror movies that have really came out by this time are Nosferatu, Dracula, and Frankenstein. So really the only big kill in horror that has actually even happened so far is Maria in Frankenstein. Then you get to the Invisible Man, and he's throwing people off of cliffs, crashing trains, and of course, one of the best deaths in horror, Kemp. The guy who was pushed off a cliff in his car, and the car exploded. I love that death. It's awesome. Kemp is basically like Jack Griffin's apprentice who didn't want to be his apprentice, so he called the cops, and the cops basically gave him a car and had him drive away, because Jack Griffin said he's gonna kill Kemp at 10 for calling the cops on him. So he's driving away. You think, alright, he's safe. He's literally cheering to himself, and the guy's like, yeah, he thought he was gonna kill me at 10. But in the backseat of the car, you hear Jack Griffin talking, and oh, it's such a cool moment. Kemp is so terrified, he pushes it off the cliff and it explodes. Just that death alone would put it over the original. But I mean, also, he crashed a train. Now, the story was really difficult for me to decide from. I've actually already recorded a bit of me talking about the story being better in the original, but I changed my mind literally while I was talking, so I restarted it. Now, I've decided against the original. The story is better in the remake, because the original I feel like is a pretty generic Invisible Man story, like he drank some chemicals, but oh, one of the chemicals just so happens to make you insane. Whereas the remake is just, it's awesome. The remake is basically, this guy is abusing his wife, Griffin being the guy, Cecilia being the wife, obviously. The wife runs away, and the guy is mad about this because he thinks that she's gonna expose him and all that. So he puts on this crazy suit that has like all just built out of mirrors and stuff to make him appear invisible. It's so awesome. It's a great story. I feel like the original, it would win, but I feel like it's a little bit too generic and too predictable, whereas the remake did something brand new with the concept, and it just made for a really great concept and a really great story within the film. How iconic it is, I feel like, has to go to the original. I mean, the remake is iconic, don't get me wrong. I feel like the remake is definitely going to go down as a classic, but the original just has so many classic and awesome scenes. It's Jack Griffin. He is the Invisible Man. Like, I feel like he also has an image associated with him as well, which I feel like is a little bit cheating, because the Invisible Man in the remake, like, he's just invisible the entire time, whereas the Invisible Man in the original has the iconic bandages, the iconic glasses, and the bathrobe, and he's just such a recognizable figure, and I feel like he really belongs in with guys like Dracula and Frankenstein as OG awesome horror monsters. The original is just awesome. Not only is Jack Griffin himself a little bit more memorable, I feel, but also there are just a little bit more memorable scenes. Like the scene, obviously, that comes to mind is when he's sitting down completely naked and you get the butt print in the chair. That's a pretty cool scene. Not because it's funny, but also because it's 1933. How do you do that? That's freaking insane. It's gotta be the original. Our final point is the cinematography, and I feel like the cinematography is actually better in the original. Now, from a technical standpoint, obviously the cinematography is better in the remake. I mean, came out, what, like 100 years later? But the original, for the time, remember, 1933, I can't even begin to, like, describe how good the effects were in this movie. Like, the cinematography might not have been the best, but the effects and visuals are freaking fantastic. Like, the bit that always comes to mind to me is when he's taking off his bandages in front of the mirror. That scene is just so freaking memorable and so awesome. It's just shot so amazingly, and for 1933, the effects being that good, in some scenes better than the effects in the remake, it's gotta be. So there you have it, folks. The winner and the best Invisible Man movie is the remake. In my opinion, I prefer the original. I love the original so much. It is so awesome, and from a filmmaking standpoint, it is honestly one of the best movies ever made. But the remake just has more going for it, I feel like. And the remake is better. I'll say that the remake is better. I'd rather watch the original, but the remake is definitely a much better movie, so I think that it deserves the win here. So thanks for watching my video comparing and contrasting the original and the remake of The Invisible Man. Let me know what you thought of this video down below, and let me know if you want to see me do more of these compare and contrast things. I've got Psycho, I can do Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. So let me know if you want to see any more of these, and also let me know what you think of the Invisible Man films. I don't think I've ever actually done a video on the Invisible Man movies, which is really strange to me because I love them. They're both such awesome movies, and so many of these points were so difficult for me to decide on, but yeah, as I said, let me know what you thought about these movies in the comments down below. You can follow me on Instagram at James from Wanna Play, and you can also subscribe to this channel if you would like to, but you don't have to though. So thank you for watching, goodbye, and good night, bang!